Welcome to Saturday Science with Miss Steph. Let's make some science fun. Right? I hope you had a chance to check out the preview as I'm sharing. To be honest with you, I do not recommend doing this along with me while you're watching. I highly recommend watching it first. Okay, this is an activity that I have not done on any of my various conduits or things, even live in person with students. And so I really strongly suggest that you watch it first. We are going to be using bleach and vinegar. Now, are we using large amounts of bleach and vinegar? No, we are not. But that does not mean that you don't want to be really careful with when you're doing this activity with young people, okay? Or really rather like with yourself, like if you decide that you want to try this, okay? This activity is recommended for, I want the kids to at least be in kindergarten when you're trying to do this with them, because they really need to understand they can't put their hands in their mouth and they can't like put their face in it to smell it and all that type of stuff. But absolutely, you need adult supervision for this activity. Okay, folks. Thank you so much for joining me. Now, do know that I have noted that I haven't done anything that's real art-ish or really art-heavy lately. So I will be doing that. I was thinking through that and doing some planning, because I do plan. I am like, not exactly, I'm not exactly your traditional teacher, but I'm similar to other teachers in that I do plan out the lessons for the week and all that type of stuff. And I think about the materials that I need and so forth. That being said, I do plan at least a week in advance. And I am getting ready for the pop-up this coming week at some point, either Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday. It's in the middle of the week and it just happens. Okay. And the activity, of course, on Saturday. So know that you've got some art leaning things and some fun leaning things coming in your direction in the near future. We will be breaking out our art skills once again, in particular, on Wednesday. You're going to need some sugar and some food coloring. Okay, I'm just letting you guys know that now. Sugar, food coloring, and glue for Wednesday. Okay, because I know that I don't do any advanced posts for that. I just show up somewhere around 2:30 if I can get to you. Okay, all right. Now, as far as today we're going to do a fast rust activity. Everybody say that with me: fast rust activity. All right, we're doing a fast rust. Rust is something that forms on metal when metal reacts with oxygen and it turns the metal a different color. Or rather, the metal being turned a different color is our indicator. Remember, we talked about indicators when we did our starch test. The metal turning kind of that brown, right, is something that lets us know that a chemical, everybody say chemical, reaction has occurred. And you know how much I love talking to you about chemical reactions. It's like my favorite. Okay. And I love getting a chance to show you chemical reactions. We talked about some things about like 2 weeks ago or so. We did an activity where, the starch activity. We did the starch activity, and then we did another activity midweek where we did some molecular models, right? We did molecular models with candy and toothpicks. Okay. And I talked to you about how different molecules, different chemicals come together. Okay. Come together in specific ways, right? And so today we're going to talk, like I said, about the rust reaction. Rust reaction. So to get rust, you need some water and you need some metal. Yeah. Okay. Specifically, okay, iron, right? So iron oxide is what's forming. Now, I know, big words and all that kind of stuff. Man, stop, you're doing too much. No, I know I'm not doing too much because, well, if I was doing too much, you guys wouldn't watch this. But yes, so we're going to form rust. We're going to purposefully form rust today. Like I said, I strongly suggest, even if you have the materials now, to watch me first. To watch me first. You know, you can always go back and replay things on IGTV, on Facebook, and of course, there will be an edited version on YouTube later this evening. Watch me first and then go back and do this. Okay, just for safety reasons. Safety reasons. We are going to use bleach. Very little, like, like, okay, but still, it is my desire to keep you safe. So I'm not going to suggest that you try to move around bleach and vinegar and all this kind of stuff and computing devices at the same time. Like, no. All right. Like I said, we're doing a fast rust today. Rust can take a long time. And when I say long time, I'm not talking the half an hour that you have to stand in the line at the grocery store these days, or the hour or whatever. That's not what I'm talking about. Rust can take months to form. However, or like years to form. However, using steel wool, you notice that this is steel wool pieces, we can recreate the rust reaction. Okay? The rust reaction. So I've got steel wool. For those of you wondering, but Miss Steph, these days, steel wool comes in the soapy stuff. Will that work? No, it will not work. However, all this used to be the soapy kind. All I did was put it in some soap and rinse the soap. Put it in some water, forgive me. Put my little soaped steel wool inside of water, rinse the soap out, cut it in half because we're doing 2 samples today. Okay, so you need your piece of steel wool, plain steel wool, because the likelihood that it will rust is decreased when that soap compound, that blue soap that they put in the soaked steel wool. Okay, it's less likely. Alrighty then. Of course, some paper towels, just to be safe. You need water, and for those of you very fabulous scientists out there, you should be able to tell me what container, the name of this container. Hint: it is not a measuring cup. It is a measuring device, but there's a name. Hint, hint, hint. What does this look like? What part of a bird's face, does this look like? Okay, that will give you a hint for what this is. So you need some water. It does not have to be in this type of container, but you do need some water. You need vinegar. And again, we're using very little vinegar. You're going to need some bleach. Yes, I like Clorox just because the smell is very mild, in my opinion. But do you have to use Clorox bleach? Absolutely not. No, totally not. That's just what I prefer. Okay. Then I said in the preview that you were going to need some jars. But I did do this activity in plastic bags to test, so that if you didn't have any free jars at home and you had your plastic bags from some of the activities we've done before, I wanted to show you that you can just use the plastic bags. And then I'm going to use this container to help me hold all of my reaction. And then, of course, at the end, I'll show you, well, not at the end, kind of in the middle, I'll show you what happened to my reaction that I did yesterday. And then I also will follow up with our crystals and all that from the other day, from Wednesday. Okay. And so if we're all good to go, let's keep going. Hey, 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 hey. It's good to see you all. Please stay on. This is something I've not done with Sir yet. So he's going to want to see this. Alrighty then. So let's tilt everybody down. It's that time. I already talked about the materials. Okay. I'm going to tilt you down. Okay. Again, this activity needs parent or adult supervision. And you definitely want to watch me do it first. I would not suggest trying to follow along and do it at the same time if you've not seen this activity before. We are using bleach today. All right, so first thing that I'm going to do is label my bags. Okay. Let me do this. I'm going to move this over. Okay. Label my bags. Okay. So one bag is going to be vinegar and bleach as far as the reaction. And another bag will be vinegar only. Because the other thing is that I wanted to test it and find out for you all if you had to use bleach. Maybe you really would prefer not to use bleach. And so I tested it to see if I would still get the same rust formation. Today we're doing a fast rust reaction. I got the idea for this from one of my science teacher books that I got years ago. Alrighty then, so here's a piece of my steel wool. Remember, if you choose to use the soaped steel wool, the steel wool that comes with a little blue soap encased in it, you need to rinse that soap off. Okay, you need it to be wool only. Remember, this is a reaction with the iron, with the metal that is inside of the steel wool. We're doing a rust. Everybody say rust reaction. Uh-oh, we got another person on Facebook. Hey, welcome, welcome, welcome. Today we're doing a rust reaction. All right, the next thing that we're going to do, remember, we're working with chemicals. And yes, water is a chemical, so we want to be very careful. Okay, even the water, I'm going to pour slowly. So I'm going to pour enough water to cover. Yes, I know in the preview I specifically said that you were using jars today. You do not have to use a jar. I did the tester reaction using plastic bags. So I'm doing it now today with you using a plastic bag. So what you might be noticing on Facebook, it's easier to see on Facebook, that it's already turning kind of brown. So the thing with the steel wool is that steel wool, for people who've ever used steel wool, know that steel wool is actually quite rust prone. Especially without the soap protectant in it. Okay. So that was just a cap full of vinegar. When I was saying teaspoon, I was just giving you something that you could easily measure with. This is just a cap full of vinegar. Inside of each container, I have a piece of steel wool. I just did a half. Then I have water to kind of almost cover it, at least halfway. Okay, because you have to have water for the rust reaction. And then I have a little cap full of just our distilled vinegar, distilled white vinegar. Okay. Now, again, we're being very careful. I've got all my computing devices and my phone, and of course, my body. I don't want bleach to get on my body. I want you to watch this really closely. This puppy goes fast. I'm going to put this inside of here. Okay. And that's my bleach. The bleach, I'll let you know what the bleach provides. Okay. Do we notice how in the bleach bag it's starting to turn brown very quickly? Okay, that's letting me know my rust is starting to form. Water, okay, oxygen, and my rust. You see that? Let me let you compare the difference. Let me let you compare. This is the one that has just the vinegar in it. Again, I wanted to know whether or not you could just do with vinegar only. for you all safety. Maybe you wanted to just do vinegar. Maybe you don't want to have your young scientist playing with bleach. Okay, so right now this might look disappointing. You might be like, oh man, I have to use a bleach. Well, guess what? Let me show you. Actually, let me show you these one more time together. This is the one. You see how fast that rust reaction happens with the bleach? Okay, the bleach is providing the oxygen that we need to oxidize our steel wool. The vinegar helps kind of prepare. It's like a pre-reaction component. Okay, so there's our vinegar only, and then here's our bleach sample. It is moving really, really fast. Okay, so now let's talk a little bit more before I show you my samples from yesterday, because you know you want to see that. You know you want to see what happened with yesterday's sample. You know you want to know whether or not you can do this reaction with just vinegar. You want to know that, okay? But I want to point out some safety things first. You notice I had a plate of this plastic thing under, okay, under the other plastic container. I was very gentle. I made sure I didn't splash my bleach or my water or my vinegar anywhere, because not only do I not want it on my computing devices, I do not want it on my eyes, okay? Or I don't want it to spill and be able to get on my clothes, because, I mean, you guys know I wear a lot of black. Wear black pants kind of almost every day. They're easy, that's all. It really doesn't mean anything. It's just easy and it matches with all my Science Club shirts. Okay. That being said, do I want bleach on it? No, because bleach will take the color away, right? Okay. So here are my samples from today, and you can see through the container. It's another reason why I use this clear container, right? Is that I can see what's happening without having to touch the samples. All right. Remember, please make safe, responsible choices. Please, please, please make safe, responsible choices when you're doing your science activities. All right. Now, as promised, I'm going to show you a couple of things. I'm going to show you my samples. Okay, and you know that's our science word for the thing I did before. The stuff, my experiment. Okay. Show you my samples from yesterday. Remember, rust can take a long time to develop, years to develop. But this is from yesterday. You'll let me know whether or not you think we achieved our goal of creating or forming rust quickly, fast rust, right? And our indicator that rust has formed is that we get this brown, that our silver or metallic colored steel wool goes from that silver color to a brown, right? That lets us know that it's changed, that a chemical reaction has happened. Okay. I'm going to show you that. And then I also want to show you some of my washed off steel wool that I just let sit. Because remember, I told you that steel wool, okay, which contains iron, really is rust prone. So another part of kind of this experiment, well, not kind of, another part of this experiment is finding out whether or not, right, whether or not you could just let it sit. So without any chemicals, after just washing off the pieces, just seeing, can I just do that? Well, guess what? Here we go. So I'm tilting you one more time. Let's see our results. Okay. Magic of TV, self-produced TV. I mean, you guys know that's pretty much what these Facebook Lives are, you know, and YouTube and all that kind of stuff. All right, tilting you down, trying to make sure that everyone can see Facebook and Instagram, and then of course on the replay on YouTube later. So this is just what it looks like. You should be able to tell that I'm getting brown, right? Do you see that brown, those brown pieces that I'm getting? The brown pieces, that browning, that's rust. That is rust formation. That's oxygen reacting with the iron, combining with the iron. There's oxygen combining, and it goes from our iron color to the rust color, which is brown, which can be a quite pretty color. Okay, so that's just my cleaned off steel wool. That lets you know, yes, you can do this reaction by kind of playing with the steel wool. Now, remember, I wanted to know to be able to show you, oh, can I do it with just water, the steel wool, and vinegar? See, do you see all that brown, all that rust that has formed? Plenty of rust formation in our bag. Plenty of rust formation in our bag that only has vinegar. This didn't have the bleach in it. Because there's oxygen everywhere, right? Like, I mean, it's in the air. Without it in the air, like, we all have a problem because we run off oxygen. Now, do you see the rust like on the bottom, like coming off of? Now, this one is our sample with the bleach. So not only did it form faster, it's a more complete reaction. I've got rust sitting on the bottom. Okay, and you notice how I'm not having to make contact with the bleach this way. I don't have to open my container, anything like that. And when it's time to dispose of this, I mean, I would, dump it out, kind of rinse it down the sink if you have to, but you should be able to just dispose of these like this, right? So that you're not exposing your young scientists to directly to bleach or any rust in case they might be sensitive with their hands or anything like that, right? So do you see what we have? Okay, it looks like we've got somebody else joining us on Instagram, so I'm going to review very quickly one more time, talk to you again about what we did. Okay, so I wanted to show you a fast rust reaction. Rust takes years to form most of the time. But we use some chemicals with our steel wool to make the rust form quicker. Overnight. Not even overnight. Just like, look, let me show you the samples from today. This is the sample from today. See? That's a sample from less than 5 minutes ago. Okay? So if you use bleach, it'll happen very quickly. If you use vinegar, you'll have to wait a little bit longer. Okay? So we did a fast rust reaction. The materials that we used were bleach, very little, like less than a teaspoon, bleach, water, you have to have water, and you have to have a source of steel, okay? Or iron, rather, okay? It is like really fascinating. So we used bleach, water, our iron. We got iron from just getting some steel wool. And by the way, I got the steel wool from one of my places. What's the Rite Aid this time? And I use Ziploc bags. I know that in the preview on Facebook and Instagram, I said that you would need jars. Old school chemists, we tend to like to do stuff like in glass because we know that it won't react, and it won't become like dangerous in some way reacting to the plastic. But since we had so little bleach, I tried it the night before with plastic and I knew that it would be okay. It wasn't going to break down the plastic and like melt it. Okay, so you can use plastic if you prefer. But again, glass is a little bit more old school, and also glass tends to be less issue with the environment. Like you would just dump out the contents and reuse the glass, and you won't have an issue. Okay, But like, for example, if you used a glass jar and dumped it out and washed it out, it would probably be safe to use again for other things. But like this, you'd never be able to use a Ziploc bag again for anything else. Okay, that's trash now, right? So if you're looking for to do a little bit more environmentally friendly, definitely use a glass jar, like I said. Um, and so yeah, it was like cool, right? So we got to do our fast rust reaction, and I made a point of showing you what would happen if you just let it sit out overnight, which is what these pieces are. Okay. And also what would happen if you just use vinegar. Eventually you'll get rust with the vinegar because the vinegar starts to help break down the iron, and then the oxygen that's already in the bag will react with it. Okay. Love that they were fascinated. Let me check over here for Facebook. Dispose of it. Yeah. So I've got a question about disposing of it. This is like just I would put it, for me, I'm going to put it in one more plastic bag, like reduce, reuse, recycle, reuse one of my bags that I have from the store, and then put it in my main trash, and it'll be fine. Again, if you think about it, it's very little bleach. It's less bleach these days. The amount of bleach we're using, it's less bleach than what most of us are using to clean our homes and our dishes and that type of thing these days. But still, just to be careful to make sure it doesn't break open, especially if you have like pets or if you have much younger children that might get into something. You just want to wrap it up and make sure that you like put it in the trash. Okay, if you do it this way. If you do it the other way, I mean, you can um, throw out the contents in the trash and then just wash out your glass container. Okay, so now for whoever was with me on Wednesday, I know that you want to see a little color, because I know we haven't been doing a lot of food color stuff. You want to see a little color, and you're curious what our samples look like. Yes, I do keep the samples for a little while and watch them myself and all that type of stuff. You want to know what our sugar plus salt, and what our salt only samples look like. I'm quite sure that y'all want to know. Remember, before I show you this, I want you to remember the color food coloring I used. I used what color? I have friends on here that were here on Wednesday. Who remembers what color I used? See, my friends on Instagram can kind of already see what they look like right now. Who remembers? Can you guys tell me? Meta, do you and the twins know? What color did I use on Wednesday? I'm going to give you guys a second. So my apologies for not waving at you earlier. Exactly. Remember, I used black on Wednesday. Black. This lets you know that color, like ink and all that kind of, this is a whole other thing that we can talk about and do when we do a color separation activity. That's really fun to do, and maybe we should do that soon. Doesn't that sound? Yeah, I think we should do that color separation activity really soon, because this lets you know that there's more than meets the eye. Yes, shout out to Transformer fans. Sample. Remember, I used relatively warm water and like 4 scoops of sugar. Notice our spoon. This is what our spoon looks like now. Okay. And this is what our paper towel strip looks like. So it's wet on the bottom, but when I'm touching it, this is kind of a little hard, this part. Okay. Now, that's our sugar and water and black food coloring. Now, this is our sugar and salt and water and black food coloring sample. Let's look at, so I've got some stuff floating in here, which is going to be a little hard for me to show you all. This is our spoon. You see the spoon has got some kind of debris on it. Then on the bottom, we already talked about on the bottom, most likely that's salt that is fallen out of solution. That's what we call that in science, when it doesn't mix in. Okay, or when it mixes in and then like comes out, it can't stay in the water. It falls out of solution, literally. You see how literal that is? Science can be quite literal because really, you're just observing patterns. That's all we're doing in science. We're not doing anything crazy. Okay, and then this, you see, this is hard, right? Let me show y'all. I'm gonna show y'all. Okay, we've got that, and then this, I've got this like crystal here. Okay, now let's look really quickly. You see it falling in? There we go. Now to our salt only sample. Salt only sample. I'm gonna let it kind of come off. Do you see on our salt only sample on the paper towel strip, the salt is recrystallizing? Okay, and on our spoon, it's on kind of like the neck, right, of the spoon. The color difference is quite extreme. Okay, I'm gonna put this here for a second, and then I'm actually. So, folks, scientists, we had a good time today. I had a good time. I don't know about you. I thought this was cool. So we did our fast rust reaction. That's what we did at the beginning. Fast rust. See you, hang on. So if you're not comfortable using bleach, or if you're a young person and you're wanting to try the activity without parent supervision, first of all, you need to ask your parents anyway. Do not go and tell nobody that Miss Stephanie said you could just do whatever, because that's, anybody who knows me knows that that's like just not what I said, but I'm just saying it now. Okay? But what you can do is to do with this bag, if you want to try to fast rust reaction, and if you want to do comparative, I know, see, you know, if you want to do like a comparison, if you still want to do two different things, you can do where you take the steel wool and you cut it and just leave it out in the air. And then you can put a piece in a bag. See, this is my piece from yesterday. You can put a piece. See, I labeled it. I clearly labeled it. And I put what was in here: water, the steel wool piece, and vinegar. Okay? And you see that leaving it just overnight, and trust me, this was forming way before I went to bed last night. Okay? So that leaving it just overnight will still give you a rust formation. So you could do it that way. But if you have adult supervision and permission, you can try and do it with the bleach. And you can see that on the bottom, we have a lot of rust formation. Okay? Then, after doing that, I took you through our crystal reaction. Okay? So I definitely suggest that you go and you look at, especially if you're on Instagram. But you can go on IGTV and start watching that video around like 10 minutes. Don't watch the first 10 minutes, because the first 10 minutes is just me fussing about how I can't get on Facebook. So don't bother yourself. But you can go back and see how we mixed these together. Our water, black food coloring, just because I have it. It's fun. Water, black food coloring, and sugar. This was water, sugar, black food coloring. Yes, I know it looks green, but it was black food coloring when we started. Okay? Water, black food coloring, sugar, and salt in this one. And this one was a salt only. You see how the crystallization is different for each sample. This is my salt only sample. All right. This is my salt and sugar sample. And this is my sugar only. You see how that sugar, that black looks like purple? It's purple. You know I'm excited about that because y'all know how I feel about it. Thank you for watching Saturday Science with Miss Steph. We had a lot of science fun today. We made some fast rust, and then we checked on our crystals from earlier in the week. And now it's your turn to do the work. You can like, share, and subscribe to my channel. And you can also support Science Club by becoming a patron on our Patreon page or giving directly to our nonprofit fundraiser for the end of the year. 2020 is coming to close very shortly, and we absolutely need your support for the awesome, fabulous things that we are doing. Thank you so much for watching again. Remember, like, share, and subscribe.